Good morning. Good afternoon. It's just gone 12. The EEU, or the EEC, as I think it was, in 1990. Ireland was president of the EEC, so that all the meetings took place in Dublin, Dublin Castle, I think, in 1990. And all the members of the EEC at that time, different countries got this great honour to host all the leaders of the European Union at that time. And in Ireland, we had it for 6 months. I'm not sure whether it was the first 6 months or the second 6 months. You might well be wasting your time trying to check it on the Google to give you information other than what you ask for. They're not up to much sometimes. So they don't answer the question that you actually ask. So Charlie Haughey was Prime Minister, or Taoiseach stroke Prime Minister of Ireland at that time. A very able politician and one of the best we ever had because of all the good that he did in the country. Bringing in the free travel for older folk who up to then were confined to their homes because rail fares and bus fares were expensive at the time. And he did that, and he also gave the finance for the building of Knock Airport when Monsignor James Horn was parish priest of Knock. And the Fine Gael party, when they were in, wouldn't do anything for that, the same way as they wouldn't do anything for Shannon. But Charlie Haughey did, because funny enough, Charlie Haughey's father was a commandant in the army, and Charlie Haughey and the family lived in Castlebar for some years, so he had a experience of the west of Ireland, and he did a great lot for Mayo and for farmers as well, giving them some subsidy on the land when they were living hand to mouth. So he did a lot of good, and of course the Financial Services Centre, which was a derelict site for years when I was young, and you'd never think anything had happened, and yet you'd never recognise it now. There's thousands of people employed there, and it was a great thing that he did. So he did actually, and I'd say if he had been Prime Minister, a lot of the railways, and particularly the tram in Howth and perhaps the navigation Donegal, would have been kept. But of course, he wasn't in charge at that time, so they did away with all these great benefits that we had that we didn't have to pay for, were done during the British rule. One of the good things that they did, and they also built all the canals, but they didn't destroy that. They were trying to widen the road in Dublin along where the canal is. I think it's the Royal Canal, but there was a lot of objections, so it didn't proceed. So it's an amenity, and that people often walk along where the river is. So we joined the EU with Britain in 1973. De Gaulle, when he was President of France, when we tried to join in the 1960s, wouldn't accept it. Which was a shame, because when he had to resign in 1968 with the students' revolt, he spent many months in County Kerry recovering from the shock, and but he turned down when we applied in the 1960s to join, and Britain also was turned down, but they joined when Edward Heath was Prime Minister. And we joined, and President Hillary, when he was in the Dáil as Foreign Minister, I think, he was Vice President of the EEC as well at that time. So we got great honours, and then we had the presidency for 6 months here. So all the presidents of the EU came here, and in Britain, in France, the president was Francois Mitterrand. He was a socialist prime minister, but he was prime minister, and they came here. And in Germany, it was Helmut Joseph Michael Kohl, a Christian name, and he was the leader of the German Democratic Party, and of course he was a good man, and German unification happened that year as well, and then that was East Germany under the communists, and in East Berlin. They were there, and people were often shot trying to get into West Berlin by the Stasi, I think they were called. They didn't give people freedom, and the people wanted to go to the West. And President Kennedy visited that place and said, each Berliner, somebody mentioned he was a Berliner, and he probably helped for this to come about as well. And in the UK or Britain, Margaret Thatcher was Prime Minister, and then later on in November, John Major, Sir John Major, as he turned out to be then, they all get these titles, and was Prime Minister, and I think she was, and Charlie had to deal with her vis-a-vis the North. He had a tough time with her. She was a very strong-willed type of person, and thought Britain kind of still ruled the waves, and this type of old codology. Anyway, so they were the ones, and there was a good few members in 1990. There would have been a lot of people here, I think. Greece joined in 1986, Portugal joined in 1986, and Spain joined in 1986. They had applied before, but they were turned down for one reason or another, and then they were accepted in that year. So I think Norway was in it as well, and no, not Norway. I don't know which one of them it was, but anyway, we had the presidency, and so all these leaders of these countries visited Dublin, and probably would have been their first time here. So Dublin Ireland become on the map, because heretofore they didn't know much about it. So 1990 was a great year for things happening. And we had the presidency of the EEC, I think it was called, the European Economic Community, but they morphed into the European Union, and they've gone astray, the great goals and God being at the centre. When the foundation, with the 6 members, founded not to have wars, the 6 members in Europe, Germany and France and other countries, 6 of them, that initially would have been ones, and Andreotti was Prime Minister of Italy at that time, and he was Prime Minister a few times, but he was Prime Minister in 1990. So Charlie would have been well able to deal with these. He had vision, without a doubt, but he was criticised by the media because Anthony Good, he had faults, I'm afraid, but he did a lot of good for the country, and that has to be remembered. I think he did more for the country than the rest of them put together. So that's Charlie, and that's 1990, a great year. So that's the final episode that I'm talking about, 1990. There was other good things happened in 1990. Yeah, I say Germany got their reunification without any fighting. It just happened, but took some absorber with the East. They were able to absorb it without suffering too much economic harm, because they would have been under communism, and they had to be brought up to the standard of West Germany, which was successful and had been supported by the monetary fund when after the war, they weren't. They were helped, and so they recovered, and then they become an economic success. And I think they still are. And one of the ones from East Germany, what was her name? She was dealing with Papandreou, the lady president. Oh goodness, her name just hops out of my head. Funny, isn't it? I wasn't going to be talking about that, but anyways, that was another story. But 1990 was a good year for Ireland. We were in the quarter-final of the football. We did a lot of good. So 3 cheers. Hip hip hooray, hip hip hooray, hip hip hooray. So we finish on a good note. Ireland come of age, well, it was always of age in my opinion, and had a great Catholic tradition. But 1990, it was a good year for Ireland with all the good that happened. This is my fourth episode about 1990 and my last. Have a good day and keep well. In the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, amen. I always bless myself. Bye now.